Hi students. So this is Kalaivani, Assistant Professor, Savita Engineering College, UZ Department. So I will give just a small introduction about the first topic of the first unit, embedded computing. So this gives the basic about embedded and real-time system. So you are all very familiar with what is the embedded. So I have heard most of you has done small mini projects in embedded system. So you all know what is embedded system. So what is the examples of embedded system? So I have heard from anyone when I ask you some example for embedded system, they used to say the examples are microwave oven, washing machine. These two things are familiarly coming from most of the students. So what are other applications? If someone said something extra, thank you. So these are some applications which of embedded system. For example, in home we have TV, mobile phones, IP networks, wireless communication, center office equipments, instrumentation and industrial automation, aerospace, defense, medical imaging, everywhere, office, car. For example, if you take car, what are the embedded devices inside a car? That's good, right? Car is not totally embedded system. We have many embedded system products inside a car. Can you say what are the embedded system products inside a car? Guess. Key. Most of you on your key from a longer distance, 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer, lock your car, sensor, if theft sensors, someone is unofficially going to use your car, many things. Again, when you take the car in the reverse, you have the camera. When you on or when you put the reverse gear, automatically your camera will be on. It will even have a voice image, voice saying what is there in near you, around you, look here, look there, everything. Again, you have a button to open the top roof, to close the top roof, open the top roof, gear, automatic gearbox. It's a good embedded system product. And closing, window closing, where gives the alarm when if AC is on, windows are open or not, door locking system, airbag, everywhere. We have hundreds and hundreds of embedded system products inside a car. Okay. Similarly, we have many embedded products around from morning whatever we use to evening many equipments for specially we use for example a video player, phone, everything are embedded products. Full world 3/4 of the products will be the embedded products. So any device embedding a computer but you don't think of it as a computer. For example, smartphones, smartwatches, Google Glass, at present Google Glass, digital camera, game console, automobile, earphones, mouse over, many things. But whenever say embedded system, more than 95% of the product uses a microprocessor or a microcontroller. That's the main thing of embedded system. Embedded system means it is with a controller or a processor. 95%, more than 95%. If you see the development of embedded industry, as I told, starting used to say a oven or a washing machine as a example for micro embedded system. But now if you say every product or embedded system, so without microcontroller, microprocessor, there is no embedded system. Without embedded products, our day-to-day life is very difficult. We are very sophisticated only due to the embedded devices. Anything we want for a sophistication, anything we think of automation, we have to think only of embedded system. The physical product, what comes as automated product or what we imagine, I want this help from someone. Someone should do this help to me. Everything we can do as equipment only with the help of microprocessor or a microcontroller. And this is a video which gives a YouTube video which gives an amazing thing about the history of microprocessor and microcontroller.
Interesting to know about the specific tasks done through the embedded systems by exploring its historical events. Here we go. Reputed industries which have made the embedded market more successful. So, let us take a look back at the major events that have marked the history of embedded systems. In 1944, the world's first programmable electronic digital computer was developed for the battle purpose. It was named as the Colossus Mark I and Mark II computers. The computer was specially designed and used by the British code breakers to read the encrypted German messages during the Second World War. In 1960s, a most crucial NASA's lunar mission program called Apollo Guidance Computer was started. The project was developed by Charles Stark Draper at the MIT Instrumentation Laboratory. This is the Apollo's guidance computer, and it was the first computer to use integrated circuits with 1 MHz clock, 4 kilobytes words of read-only memory, and 256 words of random access memory. This is the user interface, which has a 7-segment display unit with a keyboard. It acts as a communication bridge between the astronaut and the computer. It provided the astronauts to input their commands numerically. MIT professor David Mindel, who is the author of Digital Apollo, says the Apollo guidance computers were early examples of what we would today call embedded computers, which now appears in everything from iPhones to automobiles. Thus, Apollo guidance computer became the first recognized modern embedded system to this world. Later, in 1961, another one crucial military project was initiated. It was the Minuteman Missile-1. For this, the Autonetics D-17 guidance computer was developed. It was built from the discrete transistor logic and had a hard disk as its main memory. It was also the first embedded system to be produced in large quantities. In 1965, the first computer embedded in a commercial instrument was launched. It was a 12-bit PDP-8 mini-computer. Consequently, in 1966, the Minuteman Missile-2 went on production. This came up with several major technical advancements in the Autonetics. It replaces the old Autonetics guidance computer with the new microelectronic guidance computer, which was lighter in weight compared to its older version. The second version was developed with a high volume of integrated circuits. This process reduced the cost of integrated circuits from $1,000 each to $3 each. Due to its affordability, integrated circuits came into use on various commercial products widely. In 1968, Intel was founded by Robert Noyce and Gordon Moore. The beginning of Intel led to the evolution of microcontrollers and microprocessors, which is the heart of many modern electronics. In 1969, microprocessor-based fuel injection system was introduced in the Volkswagen cars and was a breakthrough in the field of the embedded systems. In 1971, Intel 4004, the first 4-bit microprocessor, was developed by Intel scientists. In the same year, TMS 1000, one of the most successful 4-bit microcontroller, was developed by another semiconductor giant, the Texas Instruments. Further, in 1974, the Intel 8080 was developed, and it was the first microprocessor to be used in a personal computer. And in 1980s, microcontroller became the demanded technology. The microprocessors are optimized for speed and memory size, whereas the microcontrollers are optimized for minimized power consumption and physical size. In 1983, HP 150 personal computer was introduced by Dave Packard and Bill Hewlett. It was claimed to be the first computer to be featured with touchscreen sensitivity. In 1987, VxWorks, a real-time embedded operating system, was introduced by Wind River Systems. And this real-time operating system was used for NASA's Mars Pathfinder mission in a later year. In 1989, one of the embedded systems, dot matrix printer, was restricted to 8-bit due to power expenses and tight timing and electrical constraints. In 1992, the embedded systems went wireless and nearly 10 million mobile phones were manufactured using embedded systems for controlling their functioning. In 1996, the renowned software giant Microsoft entered into the embedded market and designed its handheld personal computer using Windows CE 1.0 operating system. Following with Windows OS, in 1999, the Linux Foundation started to develop its roots in the embedded system. And at the beginning of the year 2000, a second parallel revolution occurred in the embedded systems. One of the highlights was the launch of the real-time version of Linux by TimeSys Corporation. In 2005, the multi-dollar companies Intel, IBM, and AMD released their first multi-core processors. And by the year 2007, the reputed American multinational technology company Apple released its first iPhone mobile. Following the Apple iPhone in 2008, the first Android phone was launched and the Android code became an open source OS. Finally, when it comes to our contemporary scenario, over 95% of electronic chips producing in a year are for embedded systems. These are hidden in familiar objects which you see around and use every day. Another one technological breakthrough in current embedded market is the Wi-Fi connected smart appliances. The range includes microwave oven, refrigerator, coffee brewer, washing machine, etc. And all these appliances can be monitored and controlled via your smartphone app. But what will be the picture of embedded systems in the future? Predictions say autonomous network will become the talk of the town in the future. One of the most awaited projects in this arena is the self-driving cars. It's a fully automated driverless car. Market players believing this technology is going to hit the streets soon by 2020 and it's going to change everything. Let's hope for the best.
Computer system. What is the embedded system? So embedded system normally is any device designed or developed for a specific application. Only for this application, then it is called as a embedded system. So if any device that includes a programmable computer which is not itself intended to be a general purpose computer. Thus, a PC is not itself an embedded computing device, although PCs are often used to build embedded computing system. We use only the computers or the personal computers to build embedded computing system or embedded system to design it, develop it, test it, and most of the cases we use a computer. But a computer is not a embedded system product, it is a general purpose system. Okay. When you see about the embedded system, the major thing to be known is the difference between microprocessor and microcontroller. And most of you have studied a separate subject about microprocessor and microcontroller. What is microprocessor, what is microcontroller, we'll have a fast recap about what is microprocessor and what is microcontroller. Here Atmel neural process, what you see is the microprocessor, Intel core, and after that your ARM processor, everything is your microcontroller. So main thing where we all use microprocessors. When I say most of the cases, we say that we go for controllers. Main application is gaming, web browsing, photo editing, creating documents, mathematical calculations, simulations. For all these types of application, we choose microprocessor. Microcontroller, we mostly take microcontroller for specific task. For example, I'm designing a product only for this task, then I'll go for a microcontroller due to its very easy to program and price everything. So microcontroller, if you see the application, it is digital camera, washing machine, microwave ovens, and many. Most of the embedded devices are made up of microcontroller. Again, microprocessor, you have studied the block diagram. Microprocessor CPU will be separate, ROM will be separate, RAM will be separate, serial interface, input, output, everything will be separate. For example, if I go to the shop and buy a microprocessor, I'll get only the CPU part. Again, I have to separately buy a ROM, separately buy a RAM, input, output devices, and a device. I should install a driver and pack into a PCB board, fabricate everything inside. Then only I can work with a microprocessor. But with a microcontroller, inside a same chip, inside a single IC, we will have CPU, ROM, RAM, serial interface, timer, input, output devices, extra all features inside. So what was the benefit is, I don't need to have a separate interface. For depending upon my application, I can choose the microcontroller. For example, I want in my application 2 analog to digital converters and 1 digital to analog converter. Then I will go check a microcontroller which has a inbuilt 2 ADCs and 1 DAC. So I no need to separately buy 2 ADCs and interface. So that is what is the difference between microprocessor and microcontroller. So microcontroller, it's a pack of all peripheral devices along with the CPU in a single chip, and we have to choose the microcontroller depending on our application. But microprocessor, it can be fixed. You can vary the input output devices according to your application. But here the total microcontroller had to change according to the application. That's the major difference between microprocessor and microcontroller. So general microprocessors available in your market will be, the clock speed will be from 1 GHz to 4 GHz. And RAM 512 MB to 32 GB. Now again we are getting for 64 or 128 more GB of RAM. ROM, that is your hard disk, 128 gigabits to 2 TBs, more than 2 TB is also available. Peripheral interface will be USB, high speed in Ethernet, UART, and many. It's all in the microprocessor. In microcontroller, see the clock speed variation. Here it is a 1 GHz to 4 GHz. In microcontroller, it is 1 MHz up to 300 MHz. So the working speed of microprocessor is very high. Okay. Next is ROM. ROM is from 2 KB up to 256 KBs. And some we get now again to the some extension up to MPs also is available. Flash memory will have 32 KB to 2 MP and peripheral I2C, SPI, UART, etc. We'll see the next video.
External data. Let's take a look at how the inside of a microcontroller works. Each worm represents an operation. The core, or chicks in this case, execute an operation while the next one is being fetched. The simultaneous fetching and execution is called a pipeline, and it is faster and more efficient than if the mother bird waited until the chicks were done eating to fetch another worm. Some worms are larger than others, and the chicks need to break them up into pieces in order to eat them. This is equally true for the word size of the processor. The larger the chick, the larger the worm it can eat in one go, and the higher the word size of the processor, the more data it can process at a time. Let's run through the full cycle. First, an operation is fetched from program memory This operation will access other data from temporary storage or inputs and outputs as ones and zeros. The operation is then executed by the core as the next operation is being fetched. The new instructions are fetched and executed, and this repeats until the program finishes running or until the bird is out of worms for the day. When the microcontroller is reset or the day starts anew for the birds, the entire cycle starts again. Now that we have a practical understanding of how a microcontroller works, let's take a look at what they can do. Because of their small size, low cost, and low power consumption, microcontrollers are now used in most modern electronic devices. For example, let's take a look at the key fob for your car. It's not generally something you pay much mind to. You press a button and your car unlocks. But have you ever wondered how this works? A key fob, like a microcontroller, contains at least 3 key components: buttons, the microcontroller itself, and a transmitter. When a button is pressed, it generates a signal called an interrupt to the microcontroller. This causes the microcontroller to run a very specific task called an interrupt service routine, or ISR. Inside the key fob, the birds are asleep until they are woken up by the button interrupt. The ISR for the given button is then fetched and executed. The birds then go back to sleep. The ISR generates a series of ones and zeros that's sent to the transmitter. The transmitted code is recognized by a microcontroller inside the car that proceeds to lock or unlock the car's doors. With trillions of possible codes, you can be assured that only your key combination will work with your car.
Me normally when you install some software, it will ask whether you are going to install for 32-bit or 64-bit. Microcontroller, our 8085 is 8-bit, 8086 is 16-bit, 32-bit we have ARM processors. So normally if you see the bit rate, there's a very large difference between microprocessor and microcontroller. If you have a small summary about the microprocessor and microcontroller, the parameters, the applications, gaming, web browsing, document creation, etc. Microcontroller dedicatedly for specific tasks. Internal structure, microprocessor and input-output device is connected externally. Microcontroller, CPU, microprocessor, input-outputs are presently internally connected. Cost of microprocessor is high, cost of microcontroller is low. Power consumption is very high in microprocessor, but in microcontroller it is very low. Memory, it's high in our microprocessor, low in microcontroller. Storage is very high in microprocessor and very low in microcontroller. Peripheral devices also you can see the difference. The common is mostly with respect to UART. So next, what's about the smartphones? What is smartphones? If you see, same, you are using your smartphone same as your PCs. Whatever work now you are able to do with your personal computers or your laptops, you are able to do with your smartphones. Then, what is a microprocessor or a microcontroller there inside a smartphone? Can you guess? Yes, we have both microprocessor and microcontroller in a smartphone in the form of system on chip. So it is a little upgraded of our VLSI. You have studied about system on chip on your VLSI, integrating many chips in a single chip as customized chips. The same thing. Most of our smartphones have the customized microcontrollers. They take the features, everything, and they make us a customized microcontrollers, and that is the main thing of our smartphones. So about system on chip, you will see later in very detail. Next is about the instruction set. When you talk about the my embedded system, first thing basic is what is microcontroller, what is microprocessor, why we mostly prefer microcontrollers in embedded system. Second thing about the architecture, instruction set architecture. Normally, if you see in the embedded system, we program either in assembly or in embedded C. Sometimes we go for Java, sometimes we go for C++. Major thing is assembly or C for embedded system programming. So in instruction set architecture, we are going to talk about the assembly level language programming and the CPU architecture. If you see why we need this programming, everything, to have a communication between the software and hardware, only this programs and interfaces helps us. So if you see this instruction set architecture, there are two types of instruction set architecture, RISC and CISC. Already I have studied about RISC and CISC architecture. I'll just give a small recap about what is CISC and what is RISC. So CISC is complex instruction set computing and which has large number of instructions. For example, for CISC is Intel 8086, what is studied as a microprocessor in your 5th semester. So RISC is reduced instruction set computing, less number of instruction set, and when you say less number of instruction set, there are less number of instructions compared to the CISC. Example for CISC will be your ARM processor. Okay. Next is how the instruction is more in CISC and less in CISC. For example, if we'll take an instruction of multiply A into B in a CISC instruction set, for multiplication we will have this much steps: loading A into R1, loading B into R2, make the product of these two, store the answer. We have this much instructions in CISC, sorry, in RISC, and in CISC we'll have only one command: multiply A comma B. So this is the major instructional difference between your CISC and RISC. But the time taken for multiply A comma B will be large number of instruction set. But in the CISC instruction set, for load R1 comma A, it will take only one instruction set. So CISC CPUs are more larger than RISC. RISCs are light and portable. Speed, which is speed. CISC CPUs takes little while to process the instruction, where RISC CPU will process in a second. Okay, very quickly. So RISC can only perform simple tasks quicker than CISC. Okay, but CISC are more capable in handling intensive tasks, which makes us better for larger variety of tasks. So CISC simple tasks will get in a small, very fraction of time than CISC processor. But in CISC processor only you can do variety of tasks at a time. So number of tasks can be performed at a time only in the CISC processors. Next thing, energy consumption. CISC has a large energy consumption. RISC has a lower energy consumptions. So this is the general difference between your CISC and RISC in a summarized form. Next we'll see about the DSP processes. So most of the cases wherever we need to process our voice signal or a image, or we have to have some large number of signals should be multiplied or added, something, whatever you do in a signal processing. In signal processing, what we do? Signals in system or DSP, what we study? We take number of signals, add the signals and give us a single signal. For example, music, drums, tabla, violin, we have lots of things, plus the human voice. Everything should be mixed and given as a single voice, which is very sweet to us. So that it all can be done only by digital signal processing, and processor used for digital signal processing is DSP processors. Without DSP process, if you are doing all the signal multiplication, division, everything with your microprocessor, a normal microprocessor, normal microcontroller, it will take a very, very long time. Plus, the performance will be very, very bad. So, when you want to process large number of signals, in a fraction of time, we go with digital signal processors. So digital DSP, you know that what happens, we have filter, sampling and hold, ATD converter, D to A converters and everything. So all these processes can be done in the digital signal processing processes. Okay. So and analyzing, manipulating, clearing, purifying the signals, filtering the signals, and the signal processing is done in computers or using ASIC or FPG or digital signal processor. Now I have to remember what is FPGA. See, FPGA is a tool which is used to design other processes, to test all other processes. For example, I am going to design a specific microcontroller. I am writing a program for writing a microcontroller. I will write in a code in Verilog or VHDL or system Verilog. I will write the code. I will see whether that processor is really will work. Without fabricating, I will test by embedding into a FPGA kit. That is the main purpose of FPGA. We can test whether my program designed for special purpose is going to work or not. So FPGA is that purpose, and ASIC to fabricate that working program into a single IC. Okay, or we can take any market available DSP processor and write a program for it. Anything depending upon our interest, we can do it. So DSP, normally we go for oscillators, barcode scanners, mobile phones, printers, etc. And it is real-time applications and it's very fast. The architecture is hardware architecture. I think now you remember about the hardware and monuments architecture. What's the main difference between monuments and hardware architecture? It is with respect to our memory. In monument, we'll have the same memory for both. In same memory, we'll have both program and data. But in case of hardware memory, you'll have different program and data memory. That's the main difference between your monument and hardware architecture, pipelining, replication, everything. And examples of embedded system, there are many examples. I told in automobiles, if you see, there are many hundreds of microprocessors for each and every different applications. For dashboard, we have a circuit microcontroller. For car seat, separate. Reverse camera, separate. Control engine, separate. Auto gear, separate. For what is that? Many things are there in our car. To checking the air pressure, AC, everything we have a music system, everything we have different microprocessors or microcontrollers. Even for seat belt, we have very small. When you seat belt, it will go on alarm until we put the seat belt for our safety purpose. And igniting brake systems, everything. There are many examples for embedded system. So we will see in the next application, say next video with the design of embedded system. How will you design the embedded system? What are the constraints in designing the embedded system? We will see in our next video.